So I have a critique of MiniMinuteman as a mirror toward the image that MiniMinuteman has created of himself. It's not necessarily a critique on his fact-finding or scientific statements, but perhaps a critique of character and the encompassing nature of what it means to represent life. The feeling of life is hating change. Here is an imaginary-based poetic play on words related to the idea of causality to mean that everything is related, a statement similar to the idea of the second law of thermodynamics, that nothing is created or destroyed. So by everything being related in motion to one another, having it affect outcomes, you can say anything is basically anything if you want to, which then creates a dynamic that life is meaningless, which is the idea that every system moves towards entropy or chaos, which is hardly represented in MiniMinuteman's character development as a thing representing life, or that life is the feeling of hating change, which is a contradiction, because the more life is, the more change it is. But the more it hates change, the more it hates life, which means it shouldn't be. Which would ultimately render everyone's accomplishments to be null and void. And ignorance to this is just ignorance, which means his statements are as meaningless as anyone else's. So the more that we emphasize the idea of nature with our statement of life, the more that life through hate doesn't exist, which relates to a superposition of all things in the beginning as first cause, whereby which reality is distorted as having never happened in the first place, as all information is contained, making this superposition of all things a point that exists in all time, meaning things have never happened as much as they have, making a truth in reality subjective and unfounded as much as a truth means a lie. Best held in what I feel like is the statement, the feeling of life is hating change. If anyone doubts my work or statements as a lack of or display of incongruency or conflicting natures, life contains these things as is seen in many characters, so its lack thereof or inclusion of is a matter of your taking my work to either a professional for your understanding or by copy and pasting my words into an artificial intelligence and asking it to analyze and simplify the work for your plain understanding. I will have all these words posted in my description. Hey MiniMinuteman, what do you have to say about everything being related? First cause and all, as stated, means that I could be like a particle of dust. I'm not really composed of muscle and fiber. I'm just a thing that must move forward with all ideas until there's no meaning in life. Life is just chaos. It all goes towards entropy. I wonder what you have to say about these things from me. It's more of a statement to influence a personality or a type of spirit. I just think that focusing too much on hard science is a fallacy. Life is supposed to be something that has a multitude of focuses, and being in a life that just shows experimentation leads to a place where life itself is at odds with its own description, being able to move on. I feel like he doesn't harbor that spirit very well, and it is leading up to a place where he cannot grow spiritually to be humble enough to acknowledge that life is just purely natural, if you want to put it that way, which means that it has no meaning, which would then lead to a place where everything is connected by nothing perhaps, which would lead to a place where even science is an attempt to create meaning in a world that actually has no order at all. There are many ways to harbor the spirit or attitude that I am talking about with language and ideas. With this life would be an attempt to create greater focus, as it would be moving towards nothing, which ultimately creates variety because, as we know, something exists. But getting as close to that as we could would ultimately, for MiniMinuteman, resulting in him doing different content or having a different lifestyle to change the focus and be more true to nature. If he is going to take that side, which then actually harbors a better spirit, as life can be more comfortable with an expression of differing things again, if he wants to get as close to his truth as possible, and you can't fear nothing, because there is nothing to fear, which would ultimately result in him being much more of a character that I think would represent the dynamics of life, and for me at least, justify the spotlight and give more reasoning behind all the nothing that life is, or the attitude at least come as close to it as possible, as it would then be a representation of a better life for everything.